Picture this, it's your payday, you just got paid, life's good. Fast forward 2 weeks and suddenly you're stressing about where did all your money go? Can you even survive till your next payday? You didn't have any big expenses, but still, you have no visibility where your money went. Sounds familiar? I was like that too when I first started my corporate job 2 years ago. I get paid, I spend on my daily things, but towards the middle of the month, I'm suddenly wondering where did all my money go and whether if I have enough to actually survive to my next payday. After a few messy months of learning personal finance and trying out a few different systems, I finally managed to get one that worked for me. And using this system, I managed to build up my 6 months emergency funds while also investing consistently in the stock markets in 2025. And in this video, I'm going to share that system with you so that you can properly manage your paycheck in 2026. The important thing about managing your money isn't really the amount, it's actually your money habits. I could give you $1 million today, but if you have poor money habits, you're going to be broke real quick. I've seen people in my age group not even aware of the importance of managing money. But I don't blame you guys because this wasn't really something we were taught in school. Sure, you may have heard things like you need to save your money, but no one really tells you how. But don't worry, with what I share in this video, you'll be able to manage your paycheck with a simple and repeatable money system for 2026. The first step is to track your cash flow because we can't manage what we can't see. And the goal of this step is to basically get a visibility of where your money is going every month. And there are different ways to do this. Some people like to use apps, some like to use spreadsheets, and maybe even Notion templates. Personally, I use this app called Wallet by Budget Bakers to log my expenses every transaction. You don't have to use this specific app. There are many expense trackers out there. Just pick something you like and go with it. The goal is to be able to log your expenses so that at the end of the month you can review where your money is going and how much you need for each of these categories. Now when I say categories, it's things like rent or food, transport, etc. etc. Once you've logged in on your platform, track your expenses for at least a month or two. We need sufficient data so that we can figure out where our money is going and how much we need for each of these categories on a monthly basis. I can already hear people saying, oh, this is going to be troublesome or I'm going to forget, but trust me, just stick to it for a few days and it will actually become second nature to you. One pro tip that worked for me was to actually add reminders on your phone at the end of the day to remind you to log any transactions that you may have forgotten to track in your app or spreadsheet. The next step is to divide your paycheck into several segments. Now, you may have heard of people saying that you need to split your pay for 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings, or any other variations of these splits. Now, the issue with this kind of fixed splits is that it doesn't really apply to everyone. Some people may have higher commitments than others. Some may be earning more than others so they can save more. It doesn't really apply to everyone. So while these fixed splits can serve as a guide, ideally you want to come up with your own splits based on your lifestyle. This is why tracking your expenses is important because now you have visibility on how much you will require for all these segments. Personally, these are the segments I split my pay into: the expenses, emergency fund, investments, and fund money. Let me give you an example. Let's say this person is earning 3,000 ringgit of net salary after deductions. Based on their expenses tracked, they notice that they spend around 1,800 ringgit every month for necessary expenses. This comes up to about 60% of their pay. Then with the remaining 40%, they split it into 15% for emergency funds. Now the goal of emergency fund is to be a safety net for, like the name suggests, emergencies. Let's say suddenly you don't have a job anymore, but you still need money to pay for your expenses every month. So this emergency fund should be there so that you can still survive for a couple of months till you start getting another income. Ideally, you'd want 3 to 6 months of expenses in this fund. So for this case, that would be about 10,800 ringgit. So every month, 15% of this person's pay is going to go towards this fund. Next, another 15% goes towards investment. Now, I'm not going to go too much into detail on investments in this video, if not it'll be too long, but if y'all are interested in that, let me know in the comments and I'll make another video on that. And finally, the 10% remaining will be used as fun money. Because let's be real, we still need to live life, okay? We can't be too frugal and not experience any new memories, right? So the final split would look like this. Now that you have a rough idea on how to split your money, it's also important to know where to split these two and also the order in doing so. Personally, this is how I do it. Firstly, you have your salary account. This is where your salary comes in on payday. Now, the first transfers you want to make is to pay yourself first. This involves the emergency fund segment and also the investment segment. That's because these are the segments that are directly contributing to your own future instead of paying to someone else. For the emergency fund, I would recommend setting up a high yield savings account because the nature of this fund is to basically sit there until you really need it. So why not let it sit there and grow on a good interest rate than nothing. Now in Malaysia, there are a few options with digital banks or money market funds. I personally use the Right Bank's savings account because they give 4% and it's also very liquid, which means you can cash out anytime. Now this is also important because ideally you want to put this money somewhere that you can cash out quickly, because if it's an emergency and your money is locked away, that's not good. Next, for the investment segment, set up a brokerage account. There are a few platforms available in Malaysia, but personally I use Moomoo because it has exposure to the US markets as well, and it's easy to use. I personally use this strategy called dollar cost averaging, which involves putting my investment money to buy ETFs or stocks every single month, regardless of the price. Now, again, I'm not going to go too deep into investment in this video, but if this is something you guys are interested in, let me know in the comments and I will dive deeper in a separate video. Now that you've paid yourself first with these two segments, next comes your necessary expenses. Transfer your necessary expenses split into a separate bank account. This is to avoid any overspending, because personally I think psychologically there is some effect where if you see an X amount in your bank account, you tend to tweak your lifestyle to be able to match this amount. If you see more money than you actually need, you are very likely to actually buy something extra that perhaps you don't actually need. Once you've transferred that, your remaining will be your fund money. I personally just leave this in my salary account, but you can move them to a different account if you'd like as well. And if you don't use this by the end of the next paycheck, just move it towards your emergency fund in the next month. Ideally, you'd want to automate these transfers whenever possible, just so you avoid forgetting them, and once these transfers are complete automatically, you are kind of forced to follow it. Of course, these segments aren't permanent, because let's say for example you've completed your emergency fund goal, then moving forward you can move that money into something else, either some other segments in your split, or you can create a new segment. Let's say you plan on traveling later this year, so you can create a segment where you put in money every single month to contribute for these travel plans. And that's my system to manage my pay every single month. Simple and repeatable. If you're someone that has been struggling to manage your money or have no visibility on where your money is going, I hope this video helps you in starting your personal finance journey. Thank you for watching. That's all for this one. Catch you on the next one. Peace.